Imagine standing at the top of the world, breathing in the thin, cold air of $1 billion empire, only to realize the foundation you built it on is a lie. Liam Sterling didn't get to be the most powerful CEO in the Manhattan medical industry by being soft. He was a man of steel, a man who viewed human life through the lens of data, metrics, and surgical precision. But today, the steel is about to crack. It's 8 a.m., and the lobby of Sterling Global is humming with the sound of power. Liam is striding toward the private elevator, his mind already 5 moves ahead in a merger that will change the face of oncology. He doesn't look down. He never looks down. That's why he almost trips over the small, lumpy figure crouching by the heavy glass revolving doors. It's a girl. Maybe 5 years old. She's wearing a coat 2 sizes too big, and she's diligently fishing a discarded soda can out of a designer trash bin. In this temple of wealth, she looks like a smudge on a masterpiece. Liam stops. The air in the lobby freezes. His security detail tenses, ready to usher this nuisance out, but something stops him. It's the way she moves, with a strange, focused dignity that feels hauntingly familiar. He watches as she carefully places the can into a small mesh bag already filled with recyclables. She isn't begging, she's working. And then, she looks up. Her eyes aren't the eyes of a child who is lost. They are sharp, resilient, and they hit Liam like a physical blow. They are his eyes. The exact shade of gunmetal gray he sees in the mirror every morning. Before he can process the impossibility of it, the girl stumbles, her oversized sleeve catching on the edge of the bin. A small, tarnished object clatters to the marble floor. It's a badge. Not a cheap plastic toy, but an old, custom-engraved medical volunteer badge from a decade ago. Liam's heart stops. He knows that badge. He's the one who gave it to a bright-eyed medical student named Clara 10 years ago, back when he was still a man who believed in love. The girl scrambles to grab it, her face pale. Liam reaches down, his hand trembling, a sensation he hasn't felt in years, and picks it up first. The name on the back is worn but legible, Clara Thorne. Where did you get this? Liam's voice is a low growl, stripped of its corporate polish. The girl, Jolie, doesn't flinch. She stares at him with a defiance that makes his blood run cold. It's my mom's, she says, her voice small but steady. She said it's the only thing she has left from when she was someone important. Liam feels like the oxygen has been sucked out of the room. He looks from the badge to the girl, searching for the logic, the data points to disprove what his gut is screaming. But then he notices her hands. They are stained with the grime of the city, but she's wearing a small, handmade bracelet of woven thread, the same pattern Clara used to fidget with during late-night study sessions in the library. Suddenly, the lobby doors burst open. It's Isabella, Liam's fiancée and the chief operating officer. She sweeps in, a vision of high-fashion cruelty, her heels clicking like a countdown. Liam, why are we standing around? The board is waiting, and ugh, what is this? She gestures at Jolie as if she's a spill that needs cleaning. Security, get this street rat out of here. This isn't a shelter. Isabella's voice is sharp enough to cut, and for the first time, Liam feels a surge of genuine loathing for the woman he's supposed to marry. He watches as a guard reaches for Jolie's arm, but Liam steps in the way. It's an instinctive move, one that bypasses his brain entirely. Don't touch her, he says, his voice vibrating with a hidden power. Isabella laughs, a cold, brittle sound. Liam, you've been working too hard. It's a kid looking for a handout. Give her $100 and let's move. But Liam isn't listening. He's looking at Jolie, who has retreated toward the door, her eyes brimming with a mixture of fear and that same, heartbreaking dignity. What's your name? He asks, ignoring the chaos around him. Jolie, she whispers. Jolie Thorne. The name Thorne hits him like a freight train. Clara Thorne. The woman who disappeared without a trace 5 years ago, leaving him a ghost of a man. The woman he told himself he hated because it was easier than admitting he was broken. As Jolie slips out into the crowded New York street, Liam stands there, the old badge digging into his palm. He realizes he doesn't even know his own life anymore. He thought he was the master of his universe, but he's just realized he's been living in a house of cards. Clara isn't just his ex-lover, she's his current maid. She's the woman who cleans his penthouse in the shadows, the one he's gone out of his way to ignore for the last 6 months because her presence was too painful to acknowledge. He had assumed she'd fallen on hard times and crawled back for a paycheck. He never once looked her in the eye. He never once asked about the child he'd seen in the background of her life. Now, as the elevator doors close on Isabella's frantic demands, Liam looks at his reflection in the polished steel. He sees a stranger. A billionaire who has everything, yet possesses nothing. He thinks about Clara, working in his kitchen right now, scrubbing the floors of the man who inadvertently destroyed her. He thinks about Jolie, picking through trash to pay for a life he could provide 1,000 times over. The hunt for the truth has begun, and Liam knows that by the time this day is over, the sterling name will either be redeemed or burned to the ground. And he's not sure which one he deserves more. The silence of the sterling penthouse used to be Liam's sanctuary, a quiet testament to his success, but today, it feels like a tomb holding a secret that's about to claw its way out. He stands at the heavy mahogany door of his study, his hand hovering over the handle, listening to the rhythmic, soft thud of a mop against the marble floor in the kitchen. For 6 months, that sound has been background noise, the invisible labor of a woman he refused to look at. But after seeing Jolie in that lobby, the badge digging into his palm like a brand, the invisible, has become the only thing he can see. He pushes the door open, his eyes scanning the room until they land on her. Clara. She's tucked into a corner, her back to him, her frame thinner than he remembers, moving with a weary grace that breaks something inside him he thought was long dead. He watches her for a long minute, a ghost from his past inhabiting his present. She doesn't know he's there. She's humming a low, haunting melody, the same song she used to hum when they stayed up until 3 a.m. cramming for finals in that cramped library alcove. Back then, they were equals. They were going to conquer the medical world together. Now, he owns the world, and she's scrubbing the floors of it. The contrast is a sickening knot in his stomach. He clears his throat, and the sound is like a gunshot in the still air. Clara flinches, her shoulders hunching before she slowly turns around. When her eyes meet his, there's no warmth, no nostalgia, only a flat, guarded exhaustion that feels like a physical barrier. "Mr. Sterling," she says, her voice a shadow of the vibrant girl he once knew. "I'm almost finished with the common area. I didn't mean to disturb your morning." She calls him Mr. Sterling. Not Liam. Never Liam. It's a tactical choice, a way to remind him of the vast, cold chasm he helped build between them. He walks toward her, every step feeling heavier than the last, and pulls the old volunteer badge from his pocket, laying it on the granite island between them. Clara's breath hitches. Her gaze drops to the tarnished metal, and for a fleeting second, the mask slips. Terror, raw and unadulterated, flashes across her face before she quickly masks it with a submissive bow of her head. "I saw a girl today." Liam starts, his voice low, vibrating with a tension he can barely contain. "In the lobby. She dropped this. She said her name was Jolie. Jolie Thorne." He waits for the denial, the lie, the explanation that makes sense. Instead, Clara's hands begin to shake so violently she has to grip the edge of the counter to stay upright. She doesn't look up. She doesn't defend herself. She just stands there, a woman who has been pushed to the very edge of her endurance. "She's my daughter, Liam," Clara whispers, finally using his name, and the sound of it is like a knife to his chest. "She was just trying to help me. We're behind on our bills. She didn't mean to cause trouble at your office." Liam stares at her, the gears of his clinical mind grinding against the reality of his emotions. "Behind on bills? Clara, I pay you a premium salary. Where is the money going?" He's frustrated, his corporate brain trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. Clara finally looks at him, and the fire in her gray eyes so much like his and Jolie's, burns through the shame. "Medicine isn't cheap, Liam. Especially not the kind you manufacture. Do you have any idea what it's like on the other side of your glass towers? To choose between a roof and a vial of life? She stops herself, biting her lip, the secret she's been guarding for 5 years threatening to spill over. The room is thick with the unsaid, a decade of love and 5 years of resentment colliding in the air. Liam wants to reach out, to demand the truth, to ask why she left him in that hospital hallway 5 years ago without a single word. But before he can speak, his phone buzzes, a priority alert from his security team. Isabella is downstairs, and she isn't alone. She's bringing a crew to audit the staff, a thinly veiled excuse to humiliate Clara. As Liam watches Clara scramble to hide the badge, he realizes he isn't just looking at a former lover or a maid, he's looking at a woman who is terrified of him. And as he catches a glimpse of a small, worn photograph tucked into the back of Clara's phone, a photo of a newborn Jolie with a distinctive, tiny birthmark on her shoulder, he realizes the badge isn't the only thing he recognizes from his own reflection. But the real chill settles in when he hears a faint, muffled cough coming from the service closet behind them, a sound that shouldn't be there, a sound that suggests Clara isn't just working here, she's hiding someone. The air in the sterling penthouse has turned electric, a storm brewing just beneath the surface of the polished wood and cold glass. Liam is still reeling from Clara's admission when the service closet door creaks open just an inch. He sees a pair of wide, gunmetal gray eyes peeking out. Jolie. She's been hidden there the whole time, a silent witness to the tension. Clara's face goes translucent with fear as she realizes her daughter has been spotted. This is against every rule, every protocol of the manor, but as Liam looks at the small child tucked away like a shameful secret, he doesn't feel anger. He feels a crushing, inexplicable sense of responsibility. "Jolie, come out," Liam says, his voice surprisingly soft, surprising even himself. The girl hesitates, looking to her mother for permission. Clara nods slowly, her body trembling. Jolie steps out, clutching a small, half-eaten sandwich in her grime-stained hands. She looks at Liam with a mix of curiosity and defiance. "I was hungry," she mumbles, holding up the sandwich as if it were a shield. Liam's eyes drift to the contents, thick, creamy peanut butter. His heart skips a beat. He remembers the medical files, the family history he's spent millions researching to cure his own genetic quirks. He remembers his own childhood, the terrifying moments of suffocation before he learned to carry an EpiPen everywhere. "Clara, what is she eating?" Liam's voice is sharp now, a doctor's instinct overriding the CEO's confusion. Clara looks at the sandwich, her brow furrowing. "Just a snack from the pantry, why?" She doesn't finish the sentence. Jolie's face suddenly flushes a deep, angry red. She drops the sandwich, her small hands flying to her throat as a wheezing, terrifying sound begins to tear through her chest. Clara screams, rushing to her daughter's side, but she's frozen in panic, her medical training forgotten in the face of her own child's mortality. Liam, however, is already moving. He's a man of action, a man who built an empire on saving lives, and he won't let this one slip away. He lunges for his desk, ripping open the top drawer where he keeps his emergency kit. He jams the EpiPen into Jolie's thigh through her thin leggings, holding it there as the seconds tick by like hours. Clara is sobbing, cradling Jolie's head, whispering prayers into the girl's hair. Liam watches Jolie's chest, waiting for that first, ragged gasp of air that signifies the airways are opening. When it finally comes, a loud, shuddering breath, the tension in the room snaps. Jolie's eyes flutter open, the redness in her face fading. She's safe, but the silence that follows is heavier than the crisis itself. Liam stands up, his breathing heavy, looking down at the two of them on his expensive rug. "She's allergic," he says. It's not a question. It's a statement of fact, a biological confirmation that echoes in his head. "Severely. Just like me." Clara looks up at him, her eyes red-rimmed, and for the first time, she doesn't try to hide. The truth is laid bare between them, written in the DNA of a life-and-death struggle. "I didn't know," she whispers, her voice breaking. "I've always kept her away from it. I thought maybe she escaped that part of you. That part of you. The words hang in the air, a confession that Jolie isn't just a child Clara had, she's their child. Suddenly, the front elevator dings. The sound is like a guillotine blade dropping. Isabella's voice carries through the foyer, sharp and demanding, complaining about the smell of poverty she claims follows the staff. Clara's eyes go wide with terror. If Isabella finds Jolie here, especially after a medical emergency involving Liam's own supplies, she will destroy them. Hide her, Liam commands, his voice returning to its ironclad CEO tone. Go to the guest suite in the north wing. Do not come out until I say so. He helps Clara lift the shaky Jolie, his hand brushing Clara's arm, and for a split second, the spark of their old life flares up, unmistakable and dangerous. As they disappear down the hallway, Liam turns to face the foyer, his face a mask of cold indifference. Isabella sweeps in, looking impeccable in her Chanel suit, her eyes immediately scanning the room for any sign of weakness. She stops at the dropped sandwich on the rug, her lip curling in disgust. Liam, darling, your charity case Maid is getting sloppy. There's filth on the floor. She looks at him, her eyes narrowing as she notices the used EpiPen in his hand. And why are you holding that? Are you having an attack? Liam looks at his fiancée, the woman who represents his future, and then looks toward the hallway where his past is hiding. He realizes then that Isabella isn't just a partner, she's a predator who has been watching Clara closer than he ever realized. And as Isabella picks up a small, colorful hair tie from the floor, one that clearly belongs to a child, Liam knows that the audit she promised isn't about the staff at all. It's a hunt. Liam sits in the sterile silence of his private office at the Sterling Oncology Center, the glow of 3 computer monitors casting a cold, blue light over his sharp features. On the desk in front of him lies a small, clear plastic bag containing a single strand of hair he'd pulled from Jolie's coat earlier that morning. Next to it is his own sample. The most advanced diagnostic equipment in the world is at his fingertips, capable of mapping a human genome in hours, yet he hesitates. To press start is to cross a line he can never come back from. It's to admit that his entire life for the last 5 years has been a vacuum, a hollow pursuit of wealth while his own flesh and blood. He thinks back to Clara's face during the allergy attack. The way she'd looked at him, not as a boss, but as a father who had just saved his child. The logic is undeniable, the physical traits are a mirror image, but his mind still searches for a loophole. Why would she keep this from him? Why would she let herself fall so far into poverty that she had to not chai Noah to survive? He remembers the day she left. He'd just been promoted to youngest CEO in the city's history. He'd been arrogant, obsessed with the Sterling legacy. Had he made himself so unreachable that the woman he loved felt she couldn't tell him she was carrying his heir? Or was there something darker, a force he hadn't accounted for? He presses the button. The machine whirs to life, a low hum that sounds like a heartbeat. Processing. As the progress bar crawls across the screen, Liam's phone pings. It's an encrypted message from his private investigator. Sir, I looked into the Thorne files from 5 years ago. There's a gap in the hospital records. A discharge order was signed, but not by a doctor. It was an administrative override. Liam's blood turns to ice. Admin overrides at Sterling Global are reserved for the executive board. 5 years ago, that meant his father, or his father's protégé, Isabella. The realization hits him like a physical blow. Isabella hasn't just been a cold fiancée, she's been a gatekeeper, ensuring that the Thorne problem never resurfaced. He leans back, the blue light of the monitor reflecting in his gunmetal eyes. If Isabella knew about Jolie back then, she's been playing a long game, a psychological war to keep Liam isolated and focused on the company. He thinks about Clara working in his house, the constant fear in her eyes. It wasn't just poverty she was afraid of, it was her. She was hiding under the dragon's nose, thinking it was the only way to keep Jolie close to him without Isabella finding out. Every accidental meeting Every time Clara had to not China to pay for black market medicine because she was blacklisted from his hospitals, it was all a calculated cruelty orchestrated by the woman currently planning his wedding. A chime echoes through the office. Results complete. 99.99% probability of paternity. Liam doesn't move. He doesn't breathe. The numbers on the screen are a verdict. He is a father. He has a daughter named Jolie who is brilliant, resilient, and currently hiding in his north wing because she's afraid of the world he created. He feels a surge of rage so pure it threatens to consume him. He's spent years developing cancer-curing drugs, building a reputation as a savior, while his own daughter suffered under the weight of his own shadow. He grabs his coat, his mind set on one thing: getting Clara and Jolie out of that house before Isabella's audit turns into a disappearance. But as he exits the lab, he sees a live feed from his home's security system on his tablet. The North Wing guest suite is empty. The bed is unmade, and a small, handmade thread bracelet lies discarded on the floor. In the foyer, Isabella is standing with a triumphant smile, handing a thick envelope to a man Liam recognizes as a fixer for the city's most ruthless private security firm. Liam's heart hammers against his ribs. He thought he was the one running the test, but Isabella has already finished her own investigation. And as the fixer nods and heads toward the service entrance, Liam realizes he's not just fighting for a family anymore. He's in a race against a woman who would rather see a child disappear than lose her grip on $1 billion empire. The silence in the sterling penthouse is no longer a sanctuary. It's a screaming indictment of every second Liam wasted playing by the rules of a world that was rigged against him. He bursts through the front doors, his eyes immediately darting to the north wing, but the heavy silence tells him everything he needs to know before he even reaches the suite. The room is cold. The bed, where Jolie had been resting her fragile lungs just hours ago, is perfectly made, too perfect. It's the work of a professional cleaner, a erasure of existence. On the floor, a single, handmade thread bracelet lies snapped in half, a tiny piece of debris that feels like a mountain of evidence. Clara is gone. Jolie is gone. And with them, the only light that has flickered in Liam's soul for 5 long years. He finds Isabella in the dining room, calmly sipping an espresso as if she hasn't just orchestrated a kidnapping. She doesn't even look up as he slams the DNA results onto the table, the paper fluttering near her expensive china. "Where are they, Isabella?" His voice is a jagged edge stripped of all corporate decorum. She finally looks up, her eyes as cold and calculating as a spreadsheet. "I don't know what you're talking about, Liam. I simply finished the audit. Your maid was found stealing, and she was escorted off the premises with her associate. It's for the best. We have a reputation to maintain." The casual way she dismisses his daughter as an associate sends a surge of white-hot fury through his veins. Liam leans over the table, his face inches from hers. "She's my daughter. And if a single hair on her head is harmed, I will dismantle everything you've ever built. I don't care about the merger. I don't care about the sterling name. I will burn it all to find them." For the first time, Isabella's mask of indifference cracks. She sees the gunmetal gray fire in his eyes and realizes she's no longer dealing with a CEO, she's dealing with a father. She scoffs, trying to regain her footing. "You're being emotional, Liam. She's a street girl. She'll be back in the gutters where she belongs by morning." But Liam isn't listening anymore. He's already pulled up his private tracking software. He had surreptitiously placed a high-frequency medical tracker in Jolie's pocket during the allergy emergency, a fail-safe he used for his most VIP patients. The signal is weak, blinking intermittently from a sector of the city that doesn't exist on any luxury map. It's moving toward the industrial docks, a place where people go when they want to disappear, or be disappeared. He realizes Isabella didn't just fire Clara, she handed her over to a cleaner, who specializes in making problems go away. As he sprints toward the garage, he catches a glimpse of a deleted security clip on his phone, Clara being forced into a black SUV, her hand pressed against the glass, screaming a name he can only guess is his. The signal suddenly stops dead at the edge of the East River, and the silence on the screen feels like a final goodbye. The rain in Manhattan feels like needles against Liam's skin as he drives his blacked-out SUV through streets he usually only sees from a helicopter. He's far from the glittering lights of Fifth Avenue now, deep in the skeletal remains of the industrial district where the city's secrets are buried under rust and shadow. The tracker signal died at a pier owned by a shell company Isabella's family has used for decades. Liam knows the game now. This isn't just about a maid or an old flame, it's about an heir who threatens Isabella's iron grip on the sterling fortune. He kills the lights and rolls to a stop behind a stack of shipping containers, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He steps out into the gloom, his hand tightening around the heavy flashlight that is his only weapon. The air smells of salt, diesel, and fear. He hears voices echoing from a nearby warehouse, rough, impatient tones. "Boss said to wait for the high tide," one man grumbles. "The woman is too sick to fight back anyway. Just keep the kid quiet." Liam's blood turns to ice. He moves through the shadows with the precision of a predator, his medical training allowing him to move silently. He peers through a cracked window and sees Clara tied to a rusted chair, her face pale, her breathing shallow and labored. Jolie is huddled in a corner, her eyes wide with a terror that no 5-year-old should ever know. "Mom, please wake up," Jolie whispers, her voice breaking the heavy silence of the warehouse. One of the men, a hulking figure in a tactical jacket, sneers and kicks a piece of debris toward her. "Shut it, kid! Your mom's going on a long trip, and you're going to a nice school upstate where nobody will ever hear from you again." Liam feels a primal rage bubbling up, a need to protect that overrides every logical thought in his head. He reaches for the door handle, but then he hears the distinctive click of a high-end heels on the concrete floor behind him. He spins around to find Isabella's fixer, the man he saw in the lobby, pointing a silenced pistol directly at his chest. The man doesn't look angry, he looks bored. "Mr. Sterling, you really should have stayed in the penthouse. This was supposed to be clean. Now, it's going to be complicated." Liam looks at the gun, then at the warehouse door where his family is being held at the edge of a watery grave. He realizes that Isabella didn't just want them gone, she wanted them erased so thoroughly that even he would believe they never existed. Just as the fixer's finger begins to squeeze the trigger, a muffled explosion rocks the far end of the pier, and the warehouse lights flicker out, leaving them all in a darkness where the only thing Liam can hear is Jolie's sudden, piercing scream. The darkness in the warehouse is absolute, a thick, suffocating veil that smells of ozone and old blood. Liam doesn't wait for his eyes to adjust. He lunges toward the sound of Jolie's scream, his memory of the floor plan burned into his mind. He hears the fixer swearing behind him, the sound of a gun hitting the concrete, and a scuffle in the shadows. Liam slams through the inner door, his flashlight cutting a violent beam through the dust. He finds the guards distracted by the chaos, and he doesn't hesitate. He's not a fighter by trade, but he's a man who has spent his life mastering the human body. He strikes with clinical precision, a heavy blow to the temple of the first man, followed by a tactical sweep that sends the second guard crashing into a pile of crates. He reaches Clara, fumbling with the zip ties that bind her wrists. "Liam?" she gasps, her voice a dry rattle. Her eyes are unfocused, the fever from her untreated illness finally claiming her. "You shouldn't have come. They'll kill you too." He doesn't answer. He just pulls her against his chest, the warmth of her body a stark contrast to the cold steel of the warehouse. He looks over at Jolie, who is trembling but standing, her gray eyes locked onto his with a desperate hope. "I've got you," he whispers, and for the first time, he means it with every fiber of his being. "I'm not leaving either of you ever again." But the exit is blocked. The fixer has recovered, and more men are swarming the pier. Liam knows he can't fight his way out with a sick woman and a child. He looks at the blueprints of the area he memorized on the drive over. Beneath this warehouse is an old, forgotten service tunnel that connects to the condemned wing of the Sterling Memorial Hospital, his own facility. It's a labyrinth of underground morgues and steam pipes that hasn't been used since the 70s. It's the perfect place to hide, or the perfect place to be trapped. He sweeps Jolie into his arms and slings Clara's arm over his shoulder, descending into the damp, lightless maw of the tunnel just as bullets begin to chew the wooden door frame above them. They stumble through the subterranean gloom, the air growing colder and smelling of antiseptic and decay. They reach a heavy, rusted steel door marked Morgue authorized personnel only. Liam swipes his master keycard, a card that still works because he owns the building. The locks groan and slide open, revealing a world of stainless steel drawers and tiled walls frozen in time. He lays Clara down on a cold examination table, his hands flying to her pulse. It's weak. Too weak. He looks around the room, realizing Isabella has played her final card. She's turned his own hospital into their prison. Suddenly, the intercom on the wall crackles to life, and Isabella's voice echoes through the tiled chamber, sounding like a ghost from a nightmare. Liam, did you really think I didn't know about the tunnels? You're in the one place where... Nobody hears the dead scream. Now, let's talk about that merger one last time. Liam didn't negotiate. Instead, he used his master override to broadcast Isabella's recorded threats and the warehouse security footage directly to the board and the authorities. As the police swarmed the hospital to arrest Isabella, Liam personally stabilized Clara using the advanced medical equipment in the facility. Months later, the Sterling penthouse was no longer a cold sanctuary but a home filled with laughter. Clara, fully recovered, now co-runs a medical foundation with Liam to ensure no child has to trade dignity for medicine. Jolie, no longer scavenging in the shadows, wore her father's old badge with pride as they stood together, finally a family redeemed. The following content is designed for listeners, focusing on the deep human values and life lessons we can extract from this powerful narrative. The story of Liam Sterling and Clara Thorne serves as a profound mirror, reflecting the often invisible walls we build between ourselves and the world around us. At its core, it is a testament to the fact that true power isn't found in the height of a skyscraper or the size of a merger, but in the courage to truly see another person. Liam lived as a man of steel, viewing life through data and metrics, yet he was essentially hollow until he looked down and recognized his own reflection in the eyes of a child picking through trash. This reminds us that we often walk through life blinded by our own status and success, ignoring the invisible labor that sustains our world. The most important lesson here is that human dignity is not tied to a paycheck, it is an inherent right. Jolie, despite her circumstances, worked with a focused dignity that outshone the cold luxury of the Sterling lobby. Applying this to our own lives means practicing radical empathy. We must challenge the house of cards we sometimes inhabit, the belief that our achievements make us superior to those struggling in the shadows. Liam's journey from a cold CEO to a protective father shows that redemption begins with accountability. He had to acknowledge that he unintentionally destroyed the woman he once loved by becoming unreachable in his pursuit of legacy. This story urges us to look at the people in our lives, the ones we take for granted, the ones we've ignored, and ask ourselves if we are seeing them for whom they really are. It teaches us that the Sterling name was only redeemed when it was used to serve others, moving from a symbol of corporate greed to a foundation for medical equity. Let this be a call to action, to trade high-fashion cruelty for genuine connection, and to realize that the most VIP patients in life are often the ones we've left behind. In the end, we are defined not by what we possess, but by what we are willing to protect and whom we are willing to save. Personal commentary from the author. As the creator of this content, I believe this narrative touches on the scary ease with which we can lose our humanity in the pursuit of greatness. We often treat life like a series of data points, forgetting that behind every statistic is a beating heart and a story of survival. It is heartbreaking to realize that Liam only recognized his genetic daughter because of a shared flaw, highlighting how we often need a personal stake before we choose to care. To me, the most powerful moment isn't the rescue, but the moment Liam looks in the mirror and sees a stranger despite having everything. It reminds us that wealth is a poor substitute for the warmth of a family and the peace of a clear conscience. We must stop waiting for a crisis to acknowledge the invisible people who keep our worlds running. True leadership is not about standing at the top of the world, it's about reaching back to pull others up with you. I hope this story encourages you to tear down your own glass towers and build bridges of empathy instead. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about, and sometimes, a single look of recognition can save a life. Let us choose to be the light in someone else's darkness, rather than the shadow that hides them. Statement: this story contains some elements created using AI technology, with the aim of providing enjoyable entertainment and conveying valuable, inspiring lessons to the listener. Disclaimer: this story is created for educational and inspirational purposes only. The characters, events, and situations are used to illustrate moral lessons and human values in life. Any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. Listeners should consider applying the lessons to their own real-life context appropriately.